I love the smell of burnt MDF in the morning. It smells of wargaming. Yes, today on Dragon's Teeth, we're going to be constructing the first house in our Innsmouth build. Let's dive straight in then, and I'm going to start with one of the War Cradle Scenic houses, Innsmouth, 2 Providence Lane. I got these from the good people at Empire Games, who are just up the road. I believe they've got a retail outlet now in Huntingdon. I think it's quite a small outlet, but I shall be reporting on that at some time. Now, I do have quite a number of these. I think I've got sort of 2 of each of the different types of houses. However, I'm going to resist temptation to open them all up at once, and I'm just going to work on one at a time. So, as you can see, there's a fair amount of parts here. Not a huge amount, but there's enough that I know what will happen. If I open more than one of these up, parts are all going to get mixed up, and I'm not going to know where I am. So, we're just going to do one at a time. And as I said, the great thing with these is they are pre-painted. No doubt I will give them perhaps a little bit of a wash or something like that. A little bit of my Innsmouth wash. But this saves me a lot of time in priming and painting. And to be honest, that price-wise they weren't particularly any different from the unpainted stuff. So, reasonably priced, and it's going to save me a lot of time. Alright, first step then is I'm going to get all these bits pressed out. There are no instructions in the actual pack, but sometimes with these things there are instructions online. So I'm just going to check that as well, and then I'll get to building it. There's all my pieces pushed out then. I did have one breakage, a rather thin piece there, but that's easily glued. And I've also got another one that I've just got to trim the edge of that off. Or actually, there we go. Oh, that's come off. So everything has come out very cleanly. I think that's everything, but of course I'm not throwing anything away till the whole job is done. Now, some of these pieces are quite obvious where they go and how they fit, but I'm just going to check online, as I say, just to make sure that I know what is going where. In terms of glue, I'm using this Turner and Grey wood adhesive. Now, I did have some problems finding wood glue at the moment, at least some that wasn't ridiculously expensive. There was Gorilla wood glue. That was about £8 for a not very large bottle. So even in B&M, all I could find pretty much was this. £1.99 for, I guess that's a reasonable amount in there. This will certainly be enough to do at least 1, 2, maybe even 3 houses, I would have thought. So I'm going to be working with that. Alright, so next step, I'm just going to go online, check to see if there's any instructions, and then we'll start gluing. And yes, we do have on the War Cradle Scenics website a complete construction guide for each of the models. They have quite a wide range of stuff actually, so well worth checking out. By the way, I did notice on the, are they sprues still? I'm going to call them sprues or sheets. It said Wayland Games, so I wonder what that was. Well, War Cradle Studios is actually a trading name of Wayland Games, so they're part of that same company. Alright, so now I'm armed with all the proper instructions. I've got my glue. What can go wrong? Let's find out. There we go. Our first house. Number 2, Providence Lane, Innsmouth. Overall, this was a straightforward build. One or two little things, however. One of the tabs was a bit difficult to fit in. I don't know if it bent a little bit, perhaps, or something. And, you know, you have that decision of how hard do I push. Anyway, I managed to get that in okay. One or two bits broke, as I've mentioned at the start, particularly this long piece here. The sort of porch here, that was a bit fiddly to put together. Again, because I had a piece break while I was doing that, so I sort of had to glue these thin bits onto each other. And they've come out, they're a little bit wonky. In fact, one or two bits are a little bit wonky, but this is Innsmouth, so I don't mind that. I think that's all in keeping. The roof here, I think I've got that the right way round according to the instructions, but the picture on the front, the sort of photo on the front, looks a little bit different. It's actually the other way round on there. But I've put it this way because I like this, I'm not sure what you'd call that at the front there. That little sort of beam under the roof, that gives it a nice look. Now, one other thing you get are also these pieces for the windows. So we've got the front, and on the back we have that nice round piece. For your conventional windows, we get these frames. So let me just show you. You basically get a square, and it's got the frame sort of cut out, so you just push that. However, one was like that. The other 4 of them are this. There's no line there. There's no cut. So I've basically got 4 solid bits of wood there. I could put them over the window like that, but you know that doesn't really work. So I'll check with the other ones to see if they're the same. Maybe it's just this particular model, but you know, ideally you want to have those frames around each of the windows. Overall though, yes, straightforward build. Any other issues were really just down to my clumsiness, particularly with wood glue, which I just get all over the place. Should I be applying this with something? I tend to put it on straight from the sort of tube thing. Should I maybe be using a little spatula just to put it on? Because it does get everywhere. And then of course you get that thing where you hold something down and you take your finger away and it sticks to your finger and all that stuff. So I am a little bit clumsy with that. The other thing, it says in the instructions, do not glue the door. I think you're supposed to be able to push the door open and closed. I couldn't really get that to work. So we have a sort of slightly open door. Inviting? Is that inviting? Not in Innsmouth. That's okay, I don't mind that. And it also said don't glue the roof on as well. Presumably so you can put figures inside on this top floor. To be honest, it's not a very big space inside, and you have a big drop there to put your figures in. That would be very fiddly. So we'll deal with that in one of 2 ways. One is to say there's no access to the buildings. They're very old, they're very decayed, it's dangerous to go in them, or you can't get in, the doors are all shut or whatever. The other thing is if figures do go into the buildings, then we move them off to the side. I can cut out some bits of card that size and shape, so we can use that to play out any action that takes place inside the buildings. Because of course someone might want to stick an archer or something up in this top room here to fire out the window. Just the other thing, speaking about windows, I should have done it before we started. I just thought of it as I put the last piece in, was to get some clear plastic and glue on the other side so we have the appearance of glass. I did that with my Temple of Dagon building and it works really nicely, especially once you put one of those flickering tea lights inside. You get a very nice effect of dusty glass. So I shall do that for all the next ones. This one will just assume that all the windows have been broken. And just one other final thing, I mentioned that porch was a little bit fiddly to put on. I'm concerned that that is quite fragile, especially this front bit. I can see that getting knocked as it's picked up or put away. So I'm going to put this on a base. I'm going to use one of my vinyl floor tiles, just coming out a little bit from the base of the building, but just out that porch there as well, just to give that some extra support and a little bit of protection. So I've got another one of number 2 to build. Then each side of those we're going to have number 3 and number 1, and you can probably see there with that one side flat, they sort of line up. They're detached buildings, but they line up, so we'll get some nice little alleyways between the houses. I've got some Innsmouth street scatter, little kiosks. Oh, these lampposts you do get in that number 2 house as well. I've not put those together yet. I'll probably do all of those in one go. I've got a couple of Innsmouth tackle shops. Again, they make nice little fishermen's huts. They'll be sitting down on the beach. I've also got, these aren't actually Innsmouth. These are, I think they're sort of Viking, I guess, Eston village dwelling. But again, given that Innsmouth is quite a primitive place, these make nice little fishing huts or things to go out on the edges by the marsh. So we've got a couple of those. With more substantial buildings, I've got that's going to be my Gilman Hotel, and I've got another one of those half finished. That's a tabletop scenics, and I've also got a Sarissa Precision larger house. So this might be something like the Marsh House or something like that. And I'll be building those over the coming weeks and months. And of course, the cobbled streets and Innsmouth Beach as well. That's going to be an interesting one. Now, one of the great advantages of having the shed set up is, of course, I can just leave stuff. I can let glue or PVA or paint or whatever it is dry. I can pop in, I can do 20 minutes here and there, or especially on like a Sunday, I can come in here for 2 or 3 hours and really get a lot of work done. So it did prompt in my mind, I'm interested to hear how you organise your time for the hobby. I guess for most of us, the painting and construction is what takes up the bulk of the time. Obviously, reading rules or reading scenarios, that kind of stuff, outside of the playing itself, will take some time. But it strikes me that wargaming is a hobby where there's generally, if you're a tabletop wargamer, there's quite a lot of preparation goes on. Well, even if you're an RPGer, especially if you're a DM, you're running a game, there's quite a lot of prep to do. So I'm always interested to hear how people organise their time to do that. Do you have, like me, a specific space you can set up? Or are you like I was before I cleared out the shed? You're having to set up in the kitchen and then 6 o'clock it's time for tea. You got to pack it all away again. Not to mention, of course, the dangerous giant cats that lurk around and do like to knock U-boat models in particular off of the table. Hopefully then I can pop in here and get most of those houses done over the next couple of weeks. I do have a very busy week coming up. In fact, this coming Wednesday, I've got 3 Zoom sessions in one day. I've got my morning Qigong class, which, by the way, is open to all. So if you fancy a bit of de-stressing or you want to set yourself up, give yourself an energy boost for the day, everyone is welcome to join in with that. No experience necessary. In the afternoon, we're recording the Innsmouth Book Club, our next episode, and we're going to be interviewing an author, Ali Wilkes. Now, she's written 2 really excellent horror books, one set in the Arctic and one in the Antarctic. Both really, literally chilling stories. So we're looking forward to chatting to her. And then in the evening, for this channel, I'm going to be having a chat with Big Lee of the Miniature Adventures YouTube channel, which is one of my favourites. Lee always has a lot of interesting stuff to say, so I'm really looking forward to having a chat with him. And of course, I'll be posting that up here on the channel within probably 2 or 3 days after, hopefully, if I'm not too busy. Now, if you don't want to miss any of that, and if you want to make sure you see the rest of the Innsmouth build, please, of course, do click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Please do keep your questions and comments coming in, particularly any tips on MDF and how to handle wood glue. I sort of go out with bits stuck on the back of my hand and, you know, all the rest of it. Very, very messy. Anyway, thanks for joining me. That's it for today. I'll see you next time.